So let's just settle in, breath by breath.
Get in bed.
So wonderful to see you all coming in and feeling your presence. Feel free to say hello. Hello, Bert, beloved. Hello, Camille, beloved.
Hello, Risha.
Hello, Risha, beloved. Stanley.
Hello.
You're not on.
Oh,
I want you to get it.
oh, wonderful to hear your voice, Stanley.
Oh, there you go.
Wonderful to get your poem, dear one.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
We're just finished a wonderful lunch and now we're going back to bed. I love you.
I love you. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, I'm glad I'm here too. And I just had a wonderful dream with Teddy and Yoshi.
Oh, wow.
They're just so much into my healing and so much into my experience.
Wow. Well, if you feel to share, maybe during the dialogue, if not, that's fine too. But in the meantime, I caught a glimpse, a sacred glimpse. Thank you for that.
Yes. Yes. And what was your cat's name that went to the cat club?
Kuvi.
Kubi.
Kuvi. Yes. Because the cat club is really a part of this too. So
Oh, bless you, Stanley. You vast spirit, you.
I've been 30 days with the best ICU nurse in the world.
I know. You're very blessed. You're blessed to be alive from this dramatic experience. And you are, gosh, you're weaving such gold out of it.
Christ-like experience. It's beautiful.
Well, let's take a breath together of the blessing of our convergence here.
Can you reach down and pull my legs down?
You can feel the intentionality deep in your heart of why you're here. Everyone, each of us has a deep intention. Claudia, we are so glad that you finally made it too. What a joy. What a joy. Whew. And this is a powerful gathering. Can you feel it? There's some big portals we're going to be entering into, and we have entered into already. And we need each one of you here. Oh, Deborah is here. Oh. So good to see you. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful kitty being. Thank you for joining us.
I can't mute you, so
I will do that. I will do that. No worries. I am so happy. I'm so happy to hear your voice.
Thank you,
Because I
dear.
have the oxygen.
So let's just breathe together and feel the convergence as each being joins us. We can see some of the beings that are here with us, and some are unseen. Many more than us, than we can see, are unseen. So let's tune in now to the vastness that is holding this space. Tune in to the vastness that you are. And feel the convergence of vastness, because that is what is happening. The vastness in you is meeting the vastness of all with no separation. So breathing deeper into allowing yourself to feel this on every level. Breathing gently, breathing freely. Just a compassionate breath that you breathe in of welcoming yourself into this vastness. And I'm just taking a moment to gaze at each of you, to see you as appearing as individuals here in all your beauty, with so much reverent awe. So welcoming yourself, welcoming one another, and welcoming all the animal and nature beings into this space. We'll begin with our ritual of invoking them, inviting them in silently or speaking their names out loud, whatever feels right to you. We call in Omar, Yoshi, Taz, Teddy, Khalil, all of our beloved heart horses, the ones that we can see and the ones that are in spirit form, the equine collective, all one herd. The donkeys, the mules, the minis. We call in Mary, Beauty, Sahaja, Wookie, just feel them all coming into this space. Let's call forth all of the wild animals, the wild mustangs, burros, brumbies, the wild animals on the safari plains, elephants and giraffes, hippos, rhinos, gazelle, hyenas, tigers, lions, gorillas, monkeys, orangutans. Let's call in all of the rainforest beings, sloths, lemurs, the tropical birds, the tropical felines, the snakes and insects, reptiles, butterflies. And calling in all the large animals on the plains, in the meadows, elk, moose, bison, cows. The forest dwellers, bears, rabbits, squirrels. All the insects, spiders, moths, dragonflies, bees, ants, crickets, praying mantis, grasshoppers. All the winged ones, the hawks flying overhead, here, right now. And eagles, falcons, owls, birds of prey, and the songbirds, chickadees, jays, hummingbirds, doves, pigeons, seagulls. We call in the Arctic animals, polar bear, penguins, walrus, seals. The marsupials, kangaroo, koalas, wombat. And we invite in all the oceanic beings, the whales, dolphins, all the fish in the seas, in the rivers, in the bodies of water on this planet and beyond. Just feel their presence. Too many to name, but yet they feel the vibration of our converged heart. And how could they not just flood in on these currents of love? And in the center of this sacred circle, just for a moment, breathe in your deepest vision, your deepest intention of why you are here right now, and place it into the center, just upon your breath, breathing out this beautiful flower of your soul intention, and seeing this bouquet emerge. Its fragrance is rippling out. So to prepare ourselves to just receive these messages, these transmissions today, just feeling the soles of your feet opening, as if the soles of your feet could listen too. And then the area right above your heart, the universal heart opening breath by breath to a new way of perceiving, which involves the human heart as well. Opening up the palms of your hands where healing flows in and out. Listening from the palms of your hands. Asking every cell to participate in listening, in receiving, in allowing, and in trusting that whatever needs to be known will be known, and what needs to fall away simply falls away in this alchemical container of the highest integrity. Today, the animals and all of nature urged us to turn our attention to something which I will lend words to, but the information comes through as vibrations with a certain clarity, and the words are just trying to point to something. So just feel how this lands within you and breathe your way through, allowing things to open, allowing things to fall away as you listen. The vibrational topic for today is the perpetuation of suffering. So it's a very vast and important topic. And the animal consciousness has a very expansive view to share with us. And it's really like 7 different transmissions that I'm going to read all at once, like a flow. And let's just feel it in our bodies. And then I'll go back and read it again. And perhaps we can add in a little bit of more of a led meditation. But the first time through, I'm going to read it in its entirety. Okay. Many of you understand the truth that there is no separation between what appears inside of you and that which appears externally. The interbeingness of external realities created from internal worlds. Many of you in the human collective are either beginning to see this or have full realization of this truth. We celebrate this quantum leap for so many of you in the human collective. So for this moment, we gather here and now with full attention only within, redirecting all focus of your attention to your inner world, pulling back all the cords of noticing externals, and giving your inner landscape the same intensity of energy that compels you not to turn away from the suffering that appears in the outside world. The time has come to look with the clear light of awareness at pathways of suffering that exist within your inner world. Notice there is one thing very different between your inner world and ours. Pathways in full operation, fully active, and mostly unconscious within each of you exist that do not exist in our collectives. These are pathways of secondary suffering that create suffering out of suffering. And these are what we are calling each of you to courageously not turn away from here and now. If you are constantly turning your attention to the suffering outside of yourself, with an imbalance of attention given to the suffering perpetuated within, then there will be an abundance of perpetuation of suffering. The time is now to rebalance this by looking courageously within. Most humans meet suffering with the small separate self. And therefore, suffering is not fully held by the vastness that you are. From this limited response, more suffering is created. If suffering is held by the vast essence of who you are, if it is held by what remains when all else falls away, by the impenetrable spirit of your being, then the only choice that arises is to meet suffering with depth of seeing, with depths of compassion, and with unlimited understanding. To meet suffering with anger and rage means that suffering is not being held by your larger self, and that your separate self is doing the best it can by conjuring up the only tools that it can in the face of such a terrifying threat. Anger, blame, judgment arise in response to a feeling of fear and powerlessness. These responses fuel the fire of secondary suffering, thus perpetuating suffering. We never meet suffering with anger. We do not live in a world of creating suffering within, out of suffering that simply is. We do not perpetuate suffering collectively. End of story. You must make this inner habit of suffering over suffering conscious. You must catch yourself every time you meet suffering with more suffering. You must notice when you allow the vibration of suffering to coat every cell of your being in a cloak of suffering, causing a distortion to all clear seeing, causing the creation of more suffering projected out onto all you see. And you must understand why you do this. It is simply an attempt of the ego to try to understand suffering. It thinks if it can feel suffering deeper again and again, more and more, it will be able to find a solution to it. But a solution to suffering does not exist in the domain of the ego. It exists in the domain of the spirit. And the spirit always meets suffering with vastness, with no fuel added for its perpetuation. Each time suffering comes into your awareness, let your spirit, your essence, meet it at the door of consciousness. And witness the flow of the deepest dissolution into love happen from within. Pathways of secondary suffering dissolve in this vastness. And from this, action arises and creates a new world from the inside out. Meet suffering with the clear light of awareness of the vast self. Be vigilant and always aware of who is meeting the vibration of suffering. We meet suffering without anger, without creating suffering in response to suffering. And thereby, we live in an inner world free from suffering until it simply arises. And then our courageous spirit meets it at the door in the moment and nowhere else. So just breathing in and out, opening the soles of your feet, the palms of your hands, the universal heart above the human heart, the crown of your head, the center point in between your eyebrows, center of your forehead, the back of your skull, breathing, circulating through your whole body, this powerful shedding of light within. Breathing out all that needs to be released. And I will read this transmission once again. Many of you understand the truth that there is no separation between what appears inside of you and that which appears externally. The interbeingness of external realities created from internal worlds. Many of you in the human collective are either beginning to see this or have full realization of this truth. We celebrate this quantum leap for so many of you in the human collective. So for this moment, we gather here and now with full attention only within, redirecting all focus of your attention to your inner world, pulling back all the cords of noticing externals, and giving your inner landscape the same intensity of energy that compels you not to turn away from the suffering that appears in the outside world. So we're redirecting now the same intensity within and looking and not turning away with the same compulsion and the same wisdom that compels us not to turn away from external suffering, what appears in the outside world. But for right now, we release the external focus, shining a spotlight of awareness within. The time has come to look with the clear light of awareness at pathways of suffering that exist within your inner world. Notice There's one thing very different between your inner world and ours. Pathways in full operation, fully active, and mostly unconscious within each of you exist that do not exist in our collective. These are pathways of secondary suffering that create suffering out of suffering. And these are what we are calling each of you to courageously not turn away from here and now. If you are constantly turning your attention to the suffering outside of yourself, with an imbalance of attention given to the suffering perpetuated within, then there will be an abundance of perpetuation of suffering. The time is now to rebalance this by looking courageously within. Most humans meet suffering with the separate, small self, and therefore suffering is not fully held by the vastness that you are. From this limited response, more suffering is created. If suffering is held by the vast essence of who you are, if it is held by what remains when all else falls away, by the impenetrable spirit of your being, then the only choice that arises is to meet suffering with depth of seeing, with depths of compassion, and with unlimited understanding. To meet suffering with anger and rage means that suffering is not being held by your larger self, and that your separate self is doing the best it can by conjuring up the only tools that it can in the face of such a terrifying threat. Anger, blame, judgment arise in response to a feeling of fear and powerlessness. These responses fuel the fire of secondary suffering, thus perpetuating suffering. We never meet suffering with anger. We do not live in a world of creating suffering within, out of suffering. That simply is. We do not perpetuate suffering collectively. End of story. You must make this inner habit of suffering over suffering conscious. You must catch yourself every time you meet suffering with more suffering. You must notice when you allow the vibration of suffering to coat every cell of your being in a cloak of suffering, causing a distortion to all clear seeing, causing the creation of more suffering projected out onto all you see. And you must understand why you do this. It is simply an attempt of the ego to try to understand suffering. It thinks if it can feel suffering deeper, again and again, more and more, it will be able to find a solution to it. But a solution to suffering does not exist in the domain of the ego. It exists in the domain of the spirit. And the spirit always meets suffering with vastness, with no fuel added for its perpetuation. Each time suffering comes into your awareness, let your spirit your essence, meet it at the door of consciousness. And witness the flow of the deepest dissolution into love happen from within. Pathways of secondary suffering dissolve in this vastness, and from this, action arises and creates a new world from the inside out. Meet suffering with the clear light of awareness of your vast self. Be vigilant and always aware of who is meeting the vibration of suffering. We meet suffering without anger, without creating suffering in response to suffering. And thereby we live in an inner world free from suffering until it simply arises. And then our courageous spirit meets it at the door in the moment and nowhere else. Let's just sit for a moment in silence. Feel into the vastness that you are. Feel into the vastness that allows. And feeling into the vastness of a clear light of awareness that shines without distortion. And anything that arises in response to these messages, just allow it to be held by this vastness. And notice the birthing of more love in response to whatever arises. And notice the tremendous, authentic power in that vastness that you are. And all of nature and all of the animal beings are strengthening this for us here and now. We have this beautiful being, Yoshi, right here breathing with us. Thank you, Yoshi. And Teddy, who was allowed in to the inner circle here. Because he has been an enormous teacher for me. I will be sharing that story at some point of his clarity regarding the suffering that I create and project out. And his freedom from it. And we have Khalil here, and Taz holding space. And where is my beloved pole star? Yes, with his tail towards us, grounding us all right here in the back. That's Azim. So incredible gratitude flowing as we begin to transition attention slowly and gently from our internal world back into an integration with the space and the atmosphere around you. Just wiggling fingers and toes, allowing the breath to breathe you back from this deep, vital, powerful journey. Staying anchored still within as you open your eyes when you feel ready to. This is a very powerful message, and it would be a great blessing if any of you feel to share anything you feel to that has been sparked within you. Please feel free to do so. This is a unique time where we can share voice, lend voice to experiences which sometimes are keys for one another. And there's no pressure to, but if you feel to, just unmute yourself and feel free.
I would like to share something.
Oh, Deborah, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity, Sabina. I have been struggling in great deal over the illness of one who you saw me holding, because he's lain on my heart and by my head for so many years, trying to help me heal. And I just love him so much. And I've just caught and transfixed by what you just said just this moment ago about you and Teddy, and that he transmuted your suffering and it is not affecting him. And that's my greatest fear, is that my own hurt will be the way I failed my boy I was holding there. I don't want to fail him. And so I wanted you to, if I could speak to you about what you just said. I know you're not talking about it now.
No,
but
it's okay. We can. Yes. 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 Well, that's so beautiful that you're being given an opportunity to look at this.
Yes.
It's so beautiful that your boy is creating that perspective. And the perspective is a huge gift. Just to have perspective, to have a little bit of space around. Your intention of not wanting in any way to offer and perpetuate suffering is felt. Stronger even than the suffering from this being.
Yes.
The intention, the deepest intention of not wanting in any way to create suffering or pain is felt deeper than any of our feeble attempts that we seemingly fail at.
But
They're not failures though, but it seems like we are. Yeah. Go ahead.
There's an energy in the fear I have, in the sadness I carry. It's like a thick fog in my home, and he has kidney disease, and I think it's very much in part related to the way he's tried to assist me for the last 17 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It most
I
likely is. Yes, most likely it's being created very, very intentionally to get you to this very point, right here and right now.
Yes.
Right here and right now. Which is a different point than 17 years ago.
Right.
Big difference.
So what am I to do when I'm just in the midst of the sadness or the panic or the depression?
Right.
And it's affecting him, and I'm looking at him, and I just want him to have the very best life that he has able to live.
Yes. Yes.
You
Well,
know.
he knows that. That's clear. That's a clear intention. And simply feeling the vastness of the spirit that you are and that he is in the presence of all of those waves. If you can feel both, doesn't mean you don't need to feel the waves of the habits of fear and the habits of pain, but it means to feel the vastness that's holding them at the same time. And that changes everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's easier to do in the presence of our animals
Yeah.
because they do it so effortlessly.
Yes.
And Claudia had just a support for you. She said that that's so pertinent. It's very pertinent for her too, and we are hearing you deeply, says Claudia. I wanted to let you know that. I saw that come up on the screen. Yeah, this is not, this is so important to raise. It's not just your own personal journey, it's a collective journey, and thank you for your part.
Thank you. And thank you to Claudia. Please, thank you. Oh, I appreciate it so much.
Oh yeah, we need it. We need this. One of the other clear points from the animals is that they meet whatever arises along the vibration of suffering in the moment. Just in the moment, that's it. So they're not creating outcomes, and they're not creating stories, and they're not correlating history. But they're simply meeting it right then with their courageous spirit, with their vastness of seeing, a clear seeing. And so that's what we're cultivating more of. It's not like we were taught this, how to do this, but there's an inherent knowing.
When you have a moment when you're just full on panic, in that moment, how do you shift yourself out of it so that your whole being and interbeing is immersed in
Yes, yes. Well, you don't turn away from it. You don't turn away from it. You don't try to affirm your way out of it. And you don't try to distract yourself out of it because it doesn't go away. You go right into it and you meet it with the vastness that you are.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And yes, Teddy, you did teach me this because Teddy came. So Teddy arrived half an hour before a gathering. And our gathering was on surrender.
Oh.
And that was 1.5 years ago. And he got off of the trailer from a situation that was not a great one. And his spirit's so vast. And through that gathering, as we tuned into surrender, he was pawing at the gate of the separate paddock. And I thought for sure we should let him in to the integration of this beautiful herd here. So on camera, we did that with the gathering all around. And I hung up the call. And 5 minutes went by, and the herd cornered him, and he tried to jump over, and he impaled himself on a T-post.
Oh.
And he almost died. Yeah. And I was under him putting pressure on the wound, and we stopped the bleeding before the vet came as it was spurting out. And he helped me with this process by pushing into me and assisting. And then it was over. The vet came, did her thing, didn't sew it up because it was a 6-inch puncture wound. And I was left, my partner who helps with the herd, left to go on a silent retreat up in the mountains. This was scheduled. So I was left with my full-time 50-hour-a-week job of care. I'm a caregiver. And a horrific wound and a new horse, and then the herd. And I was faced with post-traumatic stress from the near-death experience, and my body was processing it, but I also had to show up and tend to the wound and tend to life. But I was in terror 24/7. And I couldn't stop seeing it. I couldn't stop blaming ourselves in a certain way. It was just a whole cycle that I entered into of creating more suffering. It was huge, the world that I was creating. And then I would go out to him, and he was completely in the moment and deeply healing, and not in any kind of stress, and not in any kind of trauma. Just the simplicity. And I kept trying to project that onto him, that he must be suffering and it must be so awful, and oh my gosh, and he was so grounded in himself that it was just so clear to me that everything that was arising within me was within me. It was an old terror, a familiar cycle that had been inside of me for eons. And that it was really time to meet it. And he's all healed, and it's all integrated in the herd. And for his healing, I knew I had to meet this within myself, because it would create a very high integrity healing space for him to do that. And if that's really what I wanted to do, then I had to do it. But it wasn't easy, but it did happen. It was miraculous, and that's the only reason I think I'm able to receive this transmission that today is because of the initiation. We've all been initiated into suffering, and we're all ready for this. So that's the story, Deborah. Thank you I hope it's helpful to hear.
Very helpful, and I appreciate you sharing that. How did you help yourself get through it when you were at that point where you knew you had to do it for you in order to help Teddy, but like what helped you to get past that point of your own heartbreaking? I mean, is there something like a technique or?
Well, it was experiencing not just the terror, but the space of vastness that the terror was arising in.
Okay.
So I wasn't the terror. I could have a little bit of a separation. The terror wasn't who I was. It was just arising within the space that I am.
Mm.
And once the identification of, no, I am not the terror. Once there's a certain loosening of the identification with it, then there's a little bit of space.
Mm. I see.
So that's
see.
one thing that helped. And CBD oil helped. That's really good for stress and post-traumatic stress. You know, trying the best I could to breathe my way through it, but it was intense because I have a very, very big energies coming through and nervous system that's super sensitive too, like us all, and oof, it was not easy. But there was help, there was grace.
Yes.
That did it, you know?
So I just need to share with you that this has been a really scary time, and I've just been so overwhelmed. And just to have this opportunity, this invitation that this happened. I've never been here before, ever. But somehow I saw you, and I was just prompted, and I'm like, I'm here. And I also don't like being visible. I don't like being on camera for people, and I don't do this. I don't do this, but my kid needs me. My boy needs me. So I'm like, I'm doing something I don't do. But you are so wonderful. And
Oh,
you are such a gift. And I'm going to receive this. And in the moment
good,
when I feel that, I'm going to
good.
remember what you said.
Then that's a gift to me.
Bless you from myself, from my
Bless
baby.
you. And I'm so glad that you just kind of, well, look, you're not someone who likes to speak in front of others, and somehow you're here. So look at the vastness of who you are and what it can do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. And I'm just reading these beautiful messages from you all. So I'm just going to read a few of these that say, Deborah, namaste. This is from our beautiful soul sister in India, who somehow woke up in the middle of the night to be here. She says, Deborah, namaste. The moment you absorb the vastness and let go of this fear that it's your worry that might be affecting your beloved, you will naturally let go of the heaviness in your heart. You will naturally let go of the heaviness in your heart and merge with the vastness, the pure awareness of your beloved. So you'll naturally let go of the heaviness and merge with the vastness of your beloved. And as awareness to this suffering inside and letting go of the fear of hurting the one you care for, you will be in full control and empowered again, creating more healthy space for you and your beloved. So it's a self-perpetuating cycle is what she's saying. If that makes sense, Deborah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And yes, thank you, Teddy. Thank you, Sabina. And I'm receiving all the thank you and gratitude. And I thank you all for allowing me to share that. And I love you so much too. Mary is not in a good signal to speak, but she says, wow. Would anyone else like to share? Julie.
Hi.
Hello, love. Hello.
Oh, hello, love. I would like to say wow, 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 too. Like, really, so powerful. And there's a few things that have come up. So,
Okay.
the one, I love they meet it where it's at. So there's no projection. So there's just self-love immediately. And I can see where suffering, there's so much in this, because really suffering is the illusion. And it's the illusion then that we project and we experience from others. So there are people in my life that I definitely project more on and have a greater difficulty in that self-love and going in an inner world and really looking, okay, where is this really coming from? It's really not about this other person.
Yeah.
They've just triggered it within myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So bringing about that self-love that the animals so can give to themselves.
Yeah.
Such a big lesson. And it's where I'm finding myself is to let go of not getting it right, this whole getting it right and the awareness that I have, but why do I keep doing it? And just be with the journey of it. And that in itself is more self-love. And yeah. And the healing doesn't happen overnight. It's a process.
Right.
And it's every step I take, and just to keep that intention, that and the awareness of that inner world. That's the only true world that exists. And so always so beautiful, but I wanted to really.
Yes, Julie, thank you so much. I hear exactly what you're saying, and you're creating a new world within yourself by what you're speaking. A new world of meeting things with a softness. There's a certain allowing, a permission, a widening of parameters. Basically, you're meeting everything now with more vastness of who you are. That's who you are. It's hard to feel who we are when we're using pathways of distortion to perceive. Because those pathways of distortion somehow require us to become distorted. We think that we need to experience more suffering to know it, so we have to become it to know it. But really what happens then is, the animals were saying, then we experience a distorted sense of self. All of our cells become coated with a vibration of suffering. And then it's harder to remember that we're spirit incarnate.
Yes. And I so get that, because I had a deep depression at one time, and that's where I was. I was just completely immersed in my suffering, in the illusion.
Yeah.
And it took me some time to come out of it. And
yes, it does.
Yeah,
we do that, to know it deeper. There is a purity in that intention.
Yeah. Well,
But
yeah,
it's a labyrinth of illusion that we can get lost in too.
yeah, to fully immerse ourselves in the contrast, to have a
Right,
sense.
right. Which we need. We do need it in our density, the density. But we can get stuck in that only that one way.
And I can see others that haven't found their way out.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
So I'm very blessed and grateful that I have found my way out. And
Oh yes, that we get glimpses in and out. It's a great blessing.
yeah,
The perspective. Deepening. Yes, there's a perfection.
yeah. But to be in that place, and I hold that, to be in that place that's been shared, to meet it exactly, to be there and just meet it there and just have self-love and self-compassion.
Yes, yes. And to be vigilant about who is meeting it.
Well,
Who is the gatekeeper?
the door. Well, isn't that interesting? I think the more we get in touch with who's meeting it, the greater ability, the greater capacity we have to meet it where it is.
Yeah.
So it's this simultaneous, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a self-perpetuating world. It will all create itself. Thank you so much, Julie, for sharing your personal experience.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Let's just breathe that in. Breathe in the offerings of our kindreds. Mary has something that she wrote. She said, the fear of not knowing how bad it can be, that fear is the ultimate fear. And yet when it comes, whatever it may be, you always will have the courage to face. Always the courage will be there to let it be, to let the peace of the ever-present be. And to know whenever it comes, whatever it is, it will be okay. Perhaps much, much more than okay. Always much more than okay. It is the fear of the unknown, of how bad it can be. It locks us into recreation of suffering. When what is really here, we are here. Be here is the only place that is ever here. So this examining of the fears and then coming right into the moment. Claudia, yes. Is that a wave or a hand raised that you want to speak?
Hi, that was a hand raise.
Oh, I hear you. Hello, my love.
Hi, hi, how are you doing, Sabina, and
Hi.
everyone? Hi.
Good, good.
Hi. I don't know what I wanted, but I suppose a comment slash question of whatever
Sure.
that arises. But when this inner suffering is coming from this connection with others and this empathy towards wanting to help, being in need, kind of like this suffering comes from the helplessness of not being able to get to everything and to everyone. I'm just in this case thinking about this horse that I'm trying to help, but I know he's not for me, but like this suffering coming from that place of, as I said, not being able to help everyone or everything. Yes.
Yeah, the feeling of powerlessness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is it just the same, just observing, staying with it, or?
Well, it's asking who is is meeting the suffering? Which part of you is actually showing up at the door? Is it the part of you that is separate from miracles? Is it the part of you that is the vastness? Or is it the smaller egoic part of you that is a little more limited in its view? And then just meeting the meter. Who is meeting that suffering? And being very vigilant that you're calling in the vastness of the spirit of who you are, the essence of who you are, to meet whatever's arising. That changes everything. It changes the way you'll act and what you feel you need to do and how you do it. That will create instantly the non-separation that you know is true. And that will hold the powerlessness and the fear as well. It's an unlimited space for grace.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for all you do and all you are, Claudia.
Thank you, Sabina.
Thank you. Thank you, animal beings who are entraining us right now, right here. Teaching us how to perpetuate vastness and looking at the way we've spent so much energy and perpetuating suffering within. Now we're learning to perpetuate vastness.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Claudia. I'm so glad you're here. And it's so nice to see you and hear you. Such a
Thank you.
It's only in the moment that we can do this. Right now we're speaking a bit hypothetically as well, so it's really only in the moment.
I'd just like to express my deepest gratitude for the love I receive every time I come here. And Deborah, for allowing us a glimpse into your sacred soul over your baby. We hear you and we have your back and we love you. And to everybody else who participated. I just love this group.
Yes. Thank you for receiving our love too, Bert. For allowing yourself to be nourished and then to overflow from that nourishment. That's what I feel from you. It's such a blessing to see you.
Yes, and you.
Hello, Sabina. Sonali here.
Hello, Sonali. You did wake up in the middle of the night. You night
I
owl,
didn't sleep. I didn't sleep.
little night owl.
Yes, but there was a very strong calling for, and the major purpose was to feel the universal heart that we spoke about. That what is
Mm,
it to experience it in its
mm,
fullness,
mm.
and now I feel why the
Ah,
answers are there.
aha, aha.
And when
Yeah.
we were invoking the animals, the mother cow that I spoke to you about, she
Yes.
appeared. And she appeared with the feeling that the final lesson she has with me is going to be done now. And what a profound message you have delivered to each one of us today. It's so beautiful, it's so special, it's so deep that our souls were really waiting for something like this to listen, to absorb. And the moment when you finished with this message and we were holding the space of silence, the cow reappeared, and the whole picture of she coming in front of me asking for healing, and then she accepted and then she left, nothing
Oh,
more attached to that experience. And now she's free, and she has set me free with
oh,
final lesson that you have
oh,
just delivered.
look at that. One consciousness. This is self-perpetuating freedom.
Yes, and she so beautifully taught this. And now, after hearing this message, now I'm able to understand why she was there right in front of my house.
Amazing.
And now her energy feels so free and so good.
Yes, just like Mother Cow does.
Yes. And
Oh,
along with that, I just saw a vision, and I would like you to participate and anyone present here to participate.
sure.
I never used to see so many colors. I mean, so vividly, I couldn't see these colors. I could feel the purple violet, but I couldn't see the color flowing into the subconscious and impressing into my subconscious. But today, since this morning, I'm seeing these colors, and when we were being silent, I saw the golden rays, and there was a very beautiful golden ladder, and stepped on it with the trust. And as I moved up and up and up, there was a vast beautiful golden gate. It opened, and right in front right behind that gate was a beautiful big horse which was golden in color, and that was allowing to touch it. And the moment I touched, I kept my palms on that horse, that golden horse, my whole body illuminated, and that's it.
Wow. Just like that.
Just like that. And I didn't even feel to ask that what it is, because I knew that okay, fine, this only this much knowing was enough for me and for
Oh,
everyone
yeah.
present here.
Oh, yes. Thank you for sharing that. I can see it so clearly and feel that illumination. Thank you, Sonali.
Thank you, sir. I love you so much.
And I love you so much. We all love you. Climbing up the ladder is a very, very important symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Claudia, thank you for honoring the work that Sonali was doing with the cow being. Claudia thanks you, Sonali. We all thank you, Sonali.
Thank you to each one of you. And I'm just absorbing and I'm feeling such a powerful alignment of energies right here, right now.
Yes,
And
there is.
it's our collective who has called this golden spirit of horse and the golden spirits to just join in because it is so powerful and we are actually illuminating so high that the beings without even invoking, they are coming and joining us and letting us feel their high vibrations, which is what we are,
That's
and be
right.
one with that.
That's right. When we stop, when we take off the cloak of suffering, the vibration can really soar.
I can't hear you.
Oh, we're starting to climb up the ladder,
Yes,
illuminating those pathways that were unconscious, bringing
yes.
more light. Courageous, such courageous beings. We all are. Mm. And just breathing in all the gratitude. That's flowing between all of our hearts and is creating this incredible magnetic field. Let's just breathe that in together, here and now. That magnetic field. Yes, you leave if you need to leave, by all means, and you're still here with us. And we are with you. Thank you, Deborah. We're taking a moment to breathe in these offerings, to allow these shifts, to open more space for vastness to hold us, each one of us as that vastness. And shedding more light together, strengthening that. So fully breathing this in, and when you're ready to breathe it out, rippling it out into the whole. So bowing to yourself first, as not separate from the whole, honoring yourself for being here fully, and then rippling this out to all the beings who are here in this vastness where we converge. And this is our official close. I will spend a few moments just communing in silence, absorbing the energies and letting them all settle and dance. And thank you all, each one of you, for being here. So much gratitude and so much love.
Love you more. Bye.